All right. Hi, everyone. We are so excited to have this chat on this Friday. We are joined by Spencer Jenkins, who is the founder of Queer Kentucky. And we are also joined by Tasha Sams, who is the founder of Home. And today we are going to be having a discussion about the newly forming LGBTQ plus community space in Pikeville, Kentucky. And I have the honor of introducing our two speakers today. Spencer Jenkins is the founder and executive director of the nonprofit Queer Kentucky. He has been disrupting the status quo and asking people and organizations the hard questions concerning LGBTQ plus inclusivity for the last 3 years. He is specifically passionate about trans rights in Kentucky. Although Queer Kentucky is a nonprofit, it exists in the startup space as an entity providing resources for the LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs. Hey, Spencer.
Hey, thanks for having us today.
Thanks for being here. So, for over 10 years, Tasha Sams has been a noteworthy leader in Kentucky's education system. Tasha's passion for education is intertwined with entrepreneurship, and connecting the two is where Tasha spends the majority of their time. Tasha holds a BA in English Education and an MA in Educational Leadership, both from Eastern Kentucky University. Originally from London, Kentucky, Tasha lives in Covington with their partner and their four cats, Theo, Rue, Mayday, and Florence. Hey, Tasha.
Hello, hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So I'm going to step out of the way so you all can do what you do best. And I look forward to listening in.
I like how in my bio I said that I've only been asking hard questions for 3 years. Professionally, I guess I've only been doing it for 3 years. But I mean, having been a journalist since I was about 19 years old, I've been asking hard questions for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess I kind of want to first talk about Queer Kentucky's relationship with Amplify, just to kind of give people an idea what's going on. Amplify and Kentucky have been working together for like the past year, um, trying to create more programming and an ecosystem for queer founders. We realized that there was a huge gap in the ecosystem in Kentucky for specific support for LGBT founders. So Amplify has provided us some funding to create some programming, and this chat is part of that programming and kind of just highlighting what founders are doing all over the state. So today we're excited to have Tasha to talk about home. And Tasha, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a little bit more, or if you want to go ahead and start answering, like, what is home?
Yeah, well, just very quickly, I originally am from London, Kentucky. That's where I grew up. And I live in Covington now. Um, and so I think the best thing is to just jump in and kind of give the context to home because I think that wholeheartedly intertwines with who I am and where I grew up and where I'm going. Um, so what is home? That's actually a great question. This journey for me, we're probably almost to day 90, started relatively soon over the summer. Um, but it initially started out as a concept for an LGBTQ arts and entertainment venue in Pikeville, Kentucky. And through my experiences and just through this journey in general, I've spent the majority of the time talking to people and learning their stories and learning the needs and kind of getting acquainted with the movers and shakers and who's doing what and just landscaping the ecosystem down there. It's been really unique to see the vision of home change and evolve based on the conversations I'm having, which I think is so important. It has to change and evolve as I learn more about the needs. But in a nutshell, home will be a community space, an anchor for our community. And what that looks like, I know this is vague, but time will tell with more conversations, with more customer discovery. I think home's growing into something much bigger than I thought that it was going to be. But again, that's just the wild nature of entrepreneurship. Just got to hang on for the roller coaster, I think.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to you on that one. Queer Kentucky, started as like essentially a tiny blog that just had Polaroids of queer people from around the state and a little bio.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long before that blew up into something I never dreamed it would be, because it was, just kind of a hobby to uplift queer voices.
Yeah.
So the pivoting aspect and the quick growth and switch ups are always fun to navigate. But what inspired you to create this vision of home, the entertainment venue or community center?
Yeah. It's kind of something that I think has been forming for a while in my mind, and it's something that I've known for a long time as a need. It's just I think it goes back to growing up, and just to give the context, I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, and it was rough. It was not a great time. And when I turned 16, I did what most individuals do in our community, and that's I started to seek out people like me. And I found those people in Lexington, Louisville, Covington, even in Tennessee, but unfortunately not in Eastern Kentucky, not in my home. And so when I went to college, I left, and it was like I was starting a new life, because I formed essentially a new family, a new chosen family. I found new friends, and I kind of started, I guess that's what I consider the start of my life, which is crazy to think about. But that's a shared experience. And so going through that and kind of learning the ins and outs of just the dynamics of being queer in Eastern Kentucky, there's a lot to carry with you there. And then in my current role, I work with all 120 counties, and it just became very clear to me, even through the data and just the projections and the trends, that my experience was a very shared experience, that some of the most, I think, not necessarily pivotal people in Eastern Kentucky, but a lot of Eastern Kentucky's talent leaves and goes to the Golden Triangle. And so I started putting all these puzzle pieces together.
What's
And
the Golden Triangle?
yeah, it's Lexington, Louisville, and Covington.
Oh, is it that golden though?
I wouldn't say it's golden. I'd say that it's maybe the most economically viable
Yeah.
part of the state. But it just was really heart-wrenching to think that so many people like me felt the need to leave their homes to find acceptance or opportunity. I think there's just no excuse for that, because you should have both of those things where you live and where you grow up. And that's really where I think the vision of home started to come to life. Just this idea of not only bringing people back to the region, but keeping people there and inspiring them to stay there with the comfort of something like home, knowing that that community is there to uplift and give them the sort of sense of self and sense of space that they need to live their life and, love who they are. So in a nutshell, which is a really, jumbled journey, that's kind of how we got to where we are.
Yeah. I always like it when people bring up LGBTQ plus people leaving the state. And I find it interesting that people from more rural areas of the state move to Louisville, Lexington, Covington, and then you have people from Louisville, Lexington, Covington that want to move to Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And I was even having that conversation today with some people with Greater Louisville Inc., the main.
Okay, we had a quick little commercial break to deal with all that is 2021 technical difficulties at this point. I think we're used to that, but we're going to pick right back up where we left off.
We should have had like a little commercial ready.
Oh
I've
my,
been in like podcast mode so much that every time I'm like, we're gonna take a quick break, I'm always used to like getting a sponsor's word in.
yeah.
But yeah, so I think we left off with, I'm glad you brought up the whole concept of LGBT people leaving um, Pikeville and just rural areas and coming to Louisville, Lexington, and Covington. And then it's fascinating that people from Louisville, Lexington, Covington essentially run away to New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles. And I think there's this issue within our state of keeping queer talent in Kentucky. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things I want to work on personally. And I know it's something you want to work on as well. So I love the fact that, you are creating your space and spaces are being created in Louisville to show that you don't have to leave Kentucky in order to have a good life.
Yeah.
And I think it's super crucial to have those spaces in more rural places as well, where a lot of people can't run away
Mm-hmm.
and like don't have the means to. So I was wondering if you could kind of expand a little bit more on growing up in Eastern Kentucky
Mm-hmm.
and how, and I guess a little bit more on how home came to be through that experience.
Yeah. Um, in reflection of just that experience, I'm a really relatively introverted person, really introspective. And I think growing up in a community that was so really just ignorant toward the LGBTQ community in a lot of ways, and was unnecessarily traumatic. And it has taken a lot of time. I'm sure that this is not the case just for me, but just to process that and to recognize that sort of built-in shame and the shame that was sort of poured on my experience coming to terms, or not even terms, just to fruition with who I was just wrong, and that was wrong to happen. And I think it's heart-wrenching, and this is kind of where home folds into it. It's heart-wrenching to think that those experiences are still happening to the individuals who are still growing up there, who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, because it is still happening. And I almost feel like we have a moral obligation as kind of the older generation to do what we can to alleviate that trauma and to figure out a way to create spaces and to create opportunities for them that we didn't have. And that's kind of really where I think all of this came to kind of a head, is just thinking through, the different elements of just bullying and coming to terms with what it meant to be queer in Eastern Kentucky, and how religion played a role in that, and how, ostracization from just the community in general was part of that experience too. And so it was really very much so sort of an outsider looking in sort of experience when I think on my childhood, just because the lack of acceptance and the lack of being, having a seat at the table, I guess, is the best way to put it. Which the irony of it is hilarious, because, for sure, I would not be who I am today. And this may seem a little generalized, but I'll dig into it a little deeper. But I would not be who I am. I would not be where I am. I would not have accomplished what I've accomplished if I did not grow up queer in Eastern Kentucky, because it inspired me and really gave me the momentum to leave and to break a lot of, I think, just generational poverty in general. I'm the first person to go to college in my entire family, and I would not have done that if I weren't queer. I know that, because I don't think I would have been as inspired to leave, as inspired to find a better sense of life for myself. So I think there's a lot of it wrapped into just my shared experience and how that came to fruition through the vision of home. And really, it's about uplifting our community from every corner of the state, specifically in Eastern Kentucky, but really paying attention to making sure that the lives of those who are coming up behind us are much better than kind of what we experienced.
Mm-hmm. And I love how earlier you said that so many of us don't really start living our lives until early adulthood, sometimes even, later on in your adulthood. I think that is such a common theme for queer people. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we don't have a lot of community when we're younger. We don't know where to look. We don't know how to find it. And that kind of leads me into my next question. Do you know of many other founders or queer entrepreneurs in the Eastern Kentucky region? Because as I mentioned when we were starting this chat out, Queer Kentucky is working with Amplify and a couple other organizations to really work on creating an ecosystem of queer founders. And one of the things I keep finding myself explaining to a lot of the people in the ecosystem as a whole is that I'm not going to be able to find you scalable tech people right away. I'm going to be able to find you a small ecosystem of people who want to learn how to create a business and take their ideas to the next level. It is the bar is so low for our community and creating an ecosystem that that's just where we are.
Yeah.
So and I it has been a frustrating experience some trying to explain that to different people, leaders of the ecosystem here. But I was curious, yeah, if you knew of any other founders in Eastern Kentucky or just around the state in general.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's a great point, Spencer. You're absolutely right. It's it's so important for our community to really come together and explore entrepreneurship and what it can do for us and through us. But I've met quite a few business owners who are part of the community, none tech yet,
Right.
but we've got to build that sort of Rolodex of small businesses first, I think. And so, even in Pikeville, and I have to give a really big shout out to the community of Pikeville, they've been so supportive and just so willing to open their door to this idea. But Tanya Jones of Moonlit Pathways in Pikeville. I could go through the names. There's a couple that owns a spa, Perlex Spa in Pikeville. Of course, I think her name's Renee Moore. She actually won Invest 606 Accelerator competition this last maybe fall. Time's a weird thing these days.
Yeah.
And so what I've also found, and you may have found this too, is that there are a lot of entrepreneurial queers in the state. They're just mostly freelance, or they're mostly contract. And it's like, how do we get them out of that mindset, and how can we bridge those gaps together so that we can do more as a community in terms of momentum.
Well, I feel like as individuals within the queer community, we have relied on resilience for so long. Like, we didn't have help from people, whether it be family, like former friends and whatnot. So we are so used to being like, oh, I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
I don't need your help. I don't need this person's help. It's just going to be me. And I think a lot of it is getting out of that mindset as well.
Yeah. No, and that's something that I've experienced just in this journey, even though it's short lived. Just, obviously we all know that you can't do it alone. Like, no entrepreneur can do it alone. But even just knowing how to ask for help, or knowing where to ask for help, I found has been a learning experience for me, because it is a one-man show sometimes when you are part of the community and you've experienced the things that we've experienced. Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, and I hope that people like me and you and like Ariel from Sis Got Tea or Sarah Gardner from Nanny Goat Press, like I hope that we can become mentors to younger queer entrepreneurs and really create an awesome ecosystem in the state for us.
Yeah, and I think so. I think this is the start of it, which is exciting. It's taken until 2021 for us to even get to positions where we have the opportunity to lead. And I think that that's something that has to be noted too, is, there are individuals who, like you and me, are in positions now of leadership. 20 years ago, we never would have even had the opportunity to be here. So the time is now, I guess. The time is now.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, a lot of people who were queer in the workspace were just like, sit down, shut up, do your work, go home.
Yep. Yeah.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Don't ask, don't tell. Gosh, what an era. What a time.
I know, it really was that era.
It really was. And that kind of sparks an idea that I've been reflecting on too, through all these conversations and all these instances of learning, and just trying to really figure out where home is going to play a role and how we're going to meet that need. I spiraled a couple of weeks ago. I was having a conversation just about our culture and its association with bars, because I really think that there's a lot of trauma bonding there. And I don't know how we can work as a community to either redefine that for the future or to alleviate it. But it's something that really has kind of steered the direction of home, not wholeheartedly away from an LGBTQ, arts and entertainment venue, but into something that I think I want to take us into the future in a new way, and to kind of shine a light not only on our talent, but our capacity as a community. Because I've been wrestling with that. Bars are centric to our community, but is that a good thing? Is that something that we should still hold on to, or should we try to redefine it? I don't know. Those are the things I'm trying to grapple with right now.
Right. That's definitely something I've gone back and forth with for years, because those are our safe spaces a lot of the time, are LGBT bars. But there is a coffee shop in Lexington. I don't know if you've ever been to Lucy Brown Coffee Shop.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, like Sarah Brown's amazing, and she has it as kind of like coffee shop, community-esque place during the day, and then she also opens up her bar at night. Because let's be real, like, we're in Kentucky. Like, people make money off of alcohol, and it can be tough being in an LGBT space and finding other sources of revenue.
Yeah.
Which I guess kind of leads me to my next question. What is your strategy to find capital, or has it kind of just been like a, money over here, money over there, like take it from anybody?
No, there's definitely strategy behind it. COVID has destroyed the first leg of strategy. We were so excited to attend. I think we had registered for 5 or 6 prides this fall. We're going to merch and network and all the things that come with raising capital through that lens. And I've just been like, my goodness, well, reboot, got a ton of t-shirts. We're going to have to figure out what to do with those.
I can't even talk about that.
I know you know what that's like. I know you do.
450.
Oh my gosh. And so just working through those obstacles, and I'm prepared fully for the timeline to just be ripped apart, because we're clearly not out of the pandemic. I don't think we will be for some time. But I think capital, the strategy there is going to be kind of to, implement what I preach through my current role. And that's just to try and raise as much funding as I can initially to get a really positive or really flush cash flow. And obviously I'll have, I'm putting in my own money. That's important. But I applied for a few grants. I applied for a couple of pitch competitions. Actually, there's a couple pitch competitions in Eastern Kentucky I've applied for. So I'm really hoping that we get to participate in those. And I think the next thing that's on the forefront of capital is I am getting ready to really start looking for a partner in crime for this. And that's going to be someone who can really help me kind of at an operational level, but also who wants to put sort of, I guess, some money into the game too, because as this continues to form and as this continues to grow, the more I learn, the more I recognize that it's going to have to be a small team of people to really navigate it, to get it up off the ground. And so capital is something that I think is going to come through multiple facets. I don't think that there's going to be, maybe we'll get really lucky and there'll just be tons of cash that starts flowing. That's probably not going to happen. But it's going to be a long game. And I think that that's something that every entrepreneur has to recognize. It just doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take a while. And I think the resilience aspect is something that I'm really good at. And so I look forward to that. But it has been obstacle after obstacle with COVID and everything in that way. But, we're still moving forward. We're still getting there, but it's definitely going to be an uphill climb.
Yeah, hats off to all of us who have been running a business through COVID, especially like startup queer nonprofits and small businesses. Like it's definitely been a journey through the last 18 months or so.
Yeah. And when we launched in June this year, just during Pride Month, and I really thought we were going to have a runway to just really run, and we've not been able to really run, and so we've been walking.
Right. Well, everything opened up in June because Queer Kentucky had a big Pride event June 2nd, and things were opening, and everybody was looking forward to the fall season of Pride festivals. Are you still coming to Kentuckiana Pride?
Yeah, we're still registered for Kentuckiana Pride. I'm
Okay,
really
good.
hoping that it still happens. I assume it will, but
Yeah, they released some COVID guidelines, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
yeah, awesome.
And then speaking of Louisville, where Kentuckiana Pride is going to be happening, has the startup community in Louisville been of any help? Because I mean, I know there's just so much capital here um, compared to a lot of other places. Have we been of any help, or is there anything people in Louisville can do to help support your mission in Appalachia?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's been kind of beautifully overwhelming, just the amount of support that started to come, from all regions of the state. Louisville, especially, I mean, obviously with Queer Kentucky and Amplify, shout out to you guys. Appreciate, the support. But there are also just individuals who have kind of stepped up and raised their hand to help guide and mentor and really help, you know, alleviate a lot of the things that I'm not great at. And so Louisville is on my mind when it comes to really, once we've crafted the vision for home and we've validated it, that's kind of going to be definitely where we spend a lot of time. But I also have to give a shout out not hilariously, but I mean, maybe a lot of people wouldn't think this, but to the community and city of Pikeville. So, Invest 606 and SOAR have been really, really supportive of this mission. And that's something that, obviously I know those individuals, and I don't want to say it was surprising, but it was surprising in that they were very open about supporting it. And so I think that to me showcases just, the time is right. And so when it comes to those next stages of this initiative and for this to become what it's going to become, I know that I'll be calling on a lot of Louisville supporters in terms of, whether it's capital or just publicity, to really rally the troops and get us to where we need to be. But I expect to kind of see, I don't know, hopefully support everywhere.
Hmm. I mean, I think it's something that the whole state can kind of
Yeah.
really rally around, because from what I know and from what my experience is with Eastern Kentucky, like there's different pride stuff and LGBT stuff popping up left and right. I went to the first Pikeville Pride in 2018 or 19, I want to say. There's talks about a Queen City Pride and Hazard coming up. Um, Eastern Kentucky, I don't, people just don't give Eastern Kentucky enough credit.
No, they don't.
And it's time like we really start giving Eastern Kentucky more credit and the credit that you all deserve because it's an amazing part of our state.
Mhm. Well, it's almost its own world, which I love. But there's so much beauty there in terms of the culture and the LGBTQ community and just the work that they're doing. And I have so much respect for those individuals because sometimes I think it's easy to feel guilty for leaving, and it's easy to feel like we just kind of jumped ship and left and kind of did what we needed to do. And I don't think that there's enough being said about the individuals who are there right now with their sleeves rolled up doing the hard work. And so I definitely want to commend them for that journey and everything that they're doing.
Oh, there's definitely a ton with their sleeves rolled up, probably as we speak right now,
Absolutely, literally. Yeah, literally.
doing the work in Appalachia.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is about all I had to ask today. Did you want to add anything else? Like, where can people find you and get more information? How can they donate? I know you're not nonprofit, but there are some fundraising things going on.
Yeah. And so, our website is home co.ky. We're also on Instagram at Home Appalachia, Facebook at Home Appalachia. Please send us a DM, a message, anything in that nature. If you want to support, if you want to volunteer, if you want to donate money, obviously that'd be fantastic. But as we continue to sort of build momentum and build this community, we're gonna keep tabs on all the individuals who kind of raised their hand and see what we can do together over the years to come.
Well, thank you for coming today, and I hope to see you soon
Oh,
in person.
no, you'll see me next Friday, actually.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, we'll finally meet. in
I
person.
know. I've met your partner, and I haven't met you in person.
Isn't that crazy? I was thinking about that today. I was like, Spencer has literally met my partner. He's not met me in person.
I was like, oh, hey, what's up?
That's not. Yeah.
So, yeah, you
Nice.
will be here. So, if anyone wants to find her Friday next week at Story, Louisville,
There in person. Just come hang out with me. We'll talk about it.
track you down, talk about all things queer entrepreneurship.
Listen, I love it.
Yes, love this. This was great, you all. And Spencer, can you tell everyone where to find you also before we wrap up?
Oh, yes, queerkentucky.com. Kentucky is spelled out, it is not KY. And it's Queer Kentucky, Kentucky spelled out on everything Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. And do either of you have anything that's upcoming that you want to shout out?
We'll be at the Kentuckiana Pride. I think that's probably the next.
Yeah, Kentuckiana Pride is October 8th and 9th on the waterfront in Louisville.
Okay.
And that is probably our next event.
Nice.
Saying that it still happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely. Nice. Well, thank you all for this amazing conversation. And I learned so much about what's going on, but also how we can be of service and the just queer entrepreneurship in general. So this was great. You can find out what's going on in the city, including things with home in Queer Kentucky at amplifylouisville.com and Amplify Louisville on Instagram. So make sure that you stay tapped into what's happening, and we will see you all next time. Thank you all, Tasha and Spencer.
Thank you.